Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! History with Joe Giorlando. In today's video, Sean and I are going to continue to play Dark Arm Dragon decks. In this video, I'm going to be running the Dark Arm Dragon return deck that I ran the other night. Sean is going to be playing a DDT variant. So the big changes between what you saw the other day versus what we're going to see today is Sean's more than likely not going to be running cards like Return from the Different Dimension. Really, in theory, he's not going to be running any traps whatsoever, so I don't have to worry about Crush Card or Dust Shoot or Mind Crush, and then, of course, Return. What I will have to worry about are cards like Reasoning and Monster Gate, churning to the deck as fast as possible, fueling the graveyard with dark monsters. This deck has an interesting game plan of milling things like Dark Arm Dragon and Plasma to fuel the dark count, and then potentially hitting a Dark Magician of Chaos that can bring back a card like Monster Reincarnation that can bring a Dark Arm that was milled back to your hand and then special summon it right to the field. From my perspective, this is probably one of the more enjoyable DDT variants that existed. There was the original DDT deck that was a little bit over the top with 3 Stratos, 3 Defusion. There was the pretty cool one that happened during the Troop Dupe format, and then there was this Dark Arm Dragon deck. I know Chris Perovic, the player that's most well known for running DDT, talked about feeling like he was playing a different game when he got to run this version of DDT, with the Dark Arms and the Plasmas, and the strategy that was really not exactly the same in previous iterations of this deck. So it'll be really interesting to see how this match goes. In terms of my hand, I mean, it's a decent hand. I have Allure of Darkness. Any hand with Allure of Darkness is great. If I can turbo out this Plasma, that would be really nice too. Plasma against his deck seems pretty challenging. No, I guess he has, what, 1 Lightning Vortex? Okay. Earlier versions of DDT ran 3 Lightning Vortex. It was pretty common, actually, to run 3. In this case, it looks like he's only running 1. We saw here on the opening turn that he brought out Stratos. This deck, looking at Chris's deck from Costa Mesa, actually ran 2 copies of E-Emergency Call and 2 copies of Reinforcements of the Army. Coupled with the singular Stratos, that's 5 essential Stratoses in your deck out of 40 cards. That's pretty impressive. All right, here we have our first Reasoning. Looking at his banish pile, he has 1 Diamond Dude banished. In theory, he only has 1 more Diamond Dude, a Dark Magician of Chaos, a Dasher, and a Jinzo. So he technically has more level 6s than anything else, but the Dark Magician of Chaos is the most threatening card, and if I actually hit Dark Magician of Chaos and he cannot recur it, I actually have my own Monster Reborn to bring it back. All right, so he hits it right off the top. We'll see if he has his own Premature Burial or his own Monster Reborn here. I talked a little bit earlier about trying to turbo out a Plasma on the first turn. Plasma sucking up Stratos is pretty good. The 900 attack off the Stratos and the 1900 attack off the Plasma brings it up to a 28. And at that point, he would need to crash Dark Arm Dragon, crash Dark Magician of Chaos, or use, it looks like, Brain Control / Lightning Vortex to deal with it. So it's really good against DDT. It's really good against Dark Arm Dragon decks in general. That Plasma is a really important piece of the deck. All right, this is actually pretty good for me. Depending on what happens here, if these monsters remain in the graveyard, I'm going to be able to Reborn Dark Magician of Chaos, bring back my Reborn, and then Reborn his Stratos. So this is what we don't want to see. We want him to have dead E-Calls in his hand after he gets the Stratos. It looks like he's losing a lot of his draw power. That's good. Ooh, he's running a DDM. I was not anticipating that. That is not something that Chris ran, so he's not running Chris's version. So I can't just look at Chris's deck from Costa Mesa, so I'm kind of playing this a little bit more blind. What DDM does is it allows you to discard a spell to special summon one of your remove from play monsters. It is a 5-star, so you can't just normal summon it without Tribute, but you can obviously Monster Gate and Reasoning into it. The fact that it's level 5 makes it a really likely hit off of Reasoning, and then obviously you can just naturally hit it off Monster Gate. Just to note, that previous turn, he hit the previous play, he hit a Plasma, and he continued. Plasma cannot be normal summoned, therefore when you hit it off a Monster Gate, it goes right to the graveyard. That's one of the ways of fueling the dark monsters into your graveyard, by hitting Plasmas and hitting Dark Arm Dragons. Yep, let's see what he hits off the Diamond Dude. He has theoretically upwards of, oh man, wow, that is an incredible hit. I do not really have a way of dealing with that. I don't have DD Crow in my deck, otherwise I could crash the Sangan. The spell card actually needs to remain in the graveyard for that following turn. That would be the only way I could play around the Defusion, but as is currently constituted, I cannot. The best hope is that he doesn't have a great banish pile. I will say he can banish these 2 warriors right now to add a sword back to his hand, a Phoenix Blade. Oh, he's setting a card. That's interesting. That could conceivably be a Threatening Roar, a Wabaku, one of those type of cards. So So let's see here. I think it's safe to use Allure of Darkness just so that I'm clear exactly what I want to do. As of right now, I actually can make the play I was talking about earlier of turboing out a Plasma. The problem is I would actually be banishing his Dark Magician of Chaos in doing that. If I went Reborn, bring out 2 monsters, summon a Sang and tribute them all for Plasma, take control of, I guess in this case is DDM, it actually wouldn't be above the 2800 threshold anymore. It'd be just below it. And then he could just attack over it with the Dark Magician of Chaos. Granted, it would fizzle or at least stop the effect of the monsters that he gets off Defusion. So that is a possibility. I think the first thing I'm going to do is activate Allure, get a better sense of what I'm working with, see if I can draw some more action. All right, so generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of Spirit Reaper. Spirit Reaper is actually an interesting one too to have banished, because if I bring it back off of a Defusion, it can actually do a decent job walling. He would then need the Brain Control or access to a Dark Arm or access to a Lightning Vortex. So I think banishing the Spirit Reaper here is pretty reasonable. The next question is, how do I want to go about trying to deal with his Defusion on the next turn? One of the best ways of doing it would be to get the Stratos out of the graveyard and the Dark Magician of Chaos out of the graveyard, and then attack the Stratos over his DDM and just leave him with the Diamond Dude on board. I guess then he could crash into my monster, so that's not quite as good. Yeah, there's really no good way, because if I Reborn the Stratos and I put it in defense, he can just attack into it, and then it puts the Stratos back into his grave. If I put Stratos in attack, he can just crash the Diamond Dude, and then he would get access to 2 with the Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. So as is currently constituted, it doesn't look like there's a really convenient way of dealing with that. I could Monster Reborn the Dark Magician of Chaos and bring back the Allure, and then look for more cards off of the Allure. I'm foregoing the ability to use Plasma that way. There is still something to be said about using Plasma this turn, though. If I do that and suck up, let's say, his Diamond Dude, it would make it so that the Plasma has the 19 plus the 12, plus the 700, not 12. It brings it up to a 26. It would at least make it so that he no longer gets his Dark Magician of Chaos effect off of the Defusion on that following turn. So it would kind of put him in an awkward position. There's also the universe that this is threatening Roar, and any of the attacks that I'm talking about wouldn't go through. So right now I'm considering reborning the Dark Magician of Chaos, reborning the Stratos, searching something, setting the Sang, and tributing them all for Plasma, sucking up one of these monsters. There's also something to be said about leaving the Dark Magician of Chaos and the Stratos on my field, having the Stratos attack over the Diamond Dude and the Dark Magician of Chaos, rather the Dark Magician of Chaos attacking over the Diamond Dude and the Stratos attacking over the DDM. And then I would, at that point, actually be in pretty good shape, because then he would only have Plasma and the only monster he'd be bringing is Diamond Dude, but that's actually not all that good. Yeah, so let's do it like this. Let's reborn his Dark Magician of Chaos, bring back the Reborn, hoping he doesn't activate Call. At least if he activates Call, it misses its timing when it hits his field, but that would still be obviously less than ideal. All right, now I'm going to activate Reborn and take his Stratos. Yep, and now I'll search for my Stratos, I think. I already have a good normal summon in Cyber Valley, so... Oh, if I search Stratos, I can pop his back row. That's actually pretty enticing. I think it's threatening Roar anyway, but might as well force it out. If it's Scapegoat too, at least it would get that off the board. Okay, so it's Scapegoat. That means one of the things that he could have done is activate Scapegoat's end phase and then activate Monster Gate on his turn. So this looks pretty decent here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Stratos, attack the Dimension Master. Diamond Dude, attack that. Oh, yeah, I'm doing it this way. Yeah, I don't want him to have sword access. So he takes 14. Then he takes 18 here. I think I'm just going to end here. There's no point in setting the Premature Burial. I'm hoping he has, you know, fairly dead cards, something like a Dark Arm Dragon in his hand. He could have something like Magical Stone, which is It's a pretty good card in general. It could open the door. Hopefully he has something like a dead E-Call maybe. He actually already milled Brain Control, so that comment does make him a Plasma. He actually has one out less in his deck currently. So he only has a Vortex if I were to get Plasma above the threshold I was talking about, which is anything above a Stratos. So if he gets a Dasher onto the board, or a Jinzo onto the board, or a Dark Magician of Chaos, granted that's already on my side, but if he were to get it back onto his side, all right, that works. All right, so coming out of the side deck, I have a few different cards that I think are pretty good here. Yeah, Reborn killed me. It sure did. Yeah, that was the perfect card right there. Yeah, he said he had a nice play. I mean, quite frankly, that deck is all nice plays, so that's not too surprising. In terms of what I'm going to do here, so Jinzo actually has no utility whatsoever in this match. Theoretically speaking, he shouldn't be bringing in any traps. Same thing with Heavy Storm. Now, if he puts in continuous trap cards, something like Royal Oppression, which is not common, looking at Chris's deck, in terms of traps, I'm seeing Decree, Mind Crush, Threatening Roar, and Torrential. Torrential's pretty good, but I can find a way to play around Torrential. The Cursed Seal is obviously pretty good. All right. Next, let's see. Obviously, keep in all of that. That obviously worked well. Brain Control is probably fine. Scapegoats is actually pretty good. Dust Shoot's one that going second isn't that great. His deck doesn't have a lot of monsters in it, and it's probably going to commit a lot to the board. And sometimes when you Dust Shoot them, they actually only have big monsters like this and Jinzo and Dasher, because on that first turn, they're smaller monsters like Stratos and Diamond Dude are ones that they typically put onto the field, and then what they are left with in hand is usually pretty minimal. So I'm actually going to side out the Dust Shoot. I think the Cursed Seal is better. Next question is the DD Crows. DD Crow is a little bit of a trap. As good as Defusion is, I'm not going to put in more than one. I like having the one to search off the Sangan. I do like being able to do that, because this deck you can Gold Sark Sangan and then crash the Sangan with your returns and your fusion, so you have a lot of accessibility to Sangan, and thus having one Crow is actually pretty valuable. I am going to side out. Zerato's an interesting one. His deck is I'm going to need the Zerato. The reason I was thinking Zerato is I've just put Spell Cancers in my deck, so my deck is a lot of big monsters, big tribute monsters. There are actually times where I don't think Torrential is that good against this deck. You can play around Torrential fairly well. Maybe I can cut a single return. Yeah, this looks pretty good to me. Cutting down on a return because I already have two. Just one more double check here. Crush is still probably fine. Hits the Dark Arms. If he doesn't have Jinzo on the board, I can activate it when he defusions. The Mind Crush is pretty good against this deck. Torrential can be pretty good. Yep. I think everything else is basically a necessity. There's nothing else I can really feasibly side out and not really mess with the integrity of what my deck is trying to do. So I think just shaving a return from the different dimension is probably the way to go. All right. So he gets to go first again. Let's see what type of hand. Oh, I have the DD Crow. This is an interesting hand. I can just go set this commander, and if I get another turn, I can tribute it off for a Spell Canceller. He can still Dark Arm with Spell Canceller on the field, so it's not an auto win. I don't even necessarily know how good it is against this because of Dark Arm Dragon, but I'm going to give it an honest effort. His deck has almost 30 spells in it. Chris at Costa Mesa ran 29 spells and 11 monsters. All right, so here is the E Emergency Call. So, as I alluded to a moment ago, his deck has 5 different ways of summoning Stratos on turn 1. Double Rhoda, double E-Call, and then, of course, Stratos himself. All right, so he searches the Plasma. Wow, that's an incredibly good draw. Unfortunately, that 1800 is a little annoying, but nevertheless, I'm still just going to de-draw the Disc Commander. Draw 2. Stratos. Crush card. Wow. That's pretty good. I'm going to play Premature. Bring back the disc. Yeah, his deck can't put DD Crow in it because then it would mess with the integrity of a bunch of cards in his deck, like Reasoning and Monster Gate. So I'm pretty safe to just do whatever I want. I think I might actually summon Stratos and destroy his back row here. I think that might be the play, because otherwise I'd search Dasher, which doesn't really help my hand in any meaningful way, or I could search Plasma. Plasma with goats is actually pretty good, though. I am a little bit tempted by that. I don't know the likelihood that he sided Decree against me, though going first, it's not impossible that he actually would bring in Decree. I know I sided out my Jinzo, and not that Jinzo would help me against Decree, but I sided out my Heavy. Typically against decks that have no traps, you don't really want Heavy in your deck. So he could be trying to counteract that plan. So I am tempted right now to summon Stratos and try and pop this back row. If that back row ends up being something like Scapegoats, I'm going to feel pretty silly, though. To what extent do I believe that Plasma is my current game plan? I actually don't think it really is. I think hitting him with Crush Card Virus, getting rid of the Stratos, cards in his hand, and then normal summoning Spell Canceller over the Disc Commander is my game plan. I don't think I really need Plasma. So I'm going to pop his back row. Let's see, if he Torrentials here, that'd be a little bit annoying. Ooh. That's not really going to matter, but still interesting. All right, I'm just going to set 2, and I'm going to pass. I think I should crush, because if he tributes for Jinzo, that's a worst-case scenario. He also has access to Monster Gate here, and I don't want that. So I know he has Plasma. I know he has that. Okay, so his hand is Reasoning, Gate, Sword, and Reborn. All right, let's see if he can win. Not impossible that he can game me from here, because he can Reborn my Disc Commander. He might Reborn his Stratos, though. Let's see. Okay, this is... Yeah, he left the Stratos on board, so I think he has to realize that... Yeah. He can actually equip the Divine Sword to my monster, but obviously you wouldn't really do that. There are technically circumstances where you might want to do that, but this deck has so many options, yeah. So he has Reasoning and Monster Reborn. If he Monster Reborns his own Stratos, I'm in really good shape because I can DD Crow it, or I could consider DD Crowing it. Yep. Let's see what he chooses to go for. Okay, yep. Let's hope he hits some monsters that can be hit by Crush Card. I need to see those 2 cards. All right, Diamond Dude. Brain Control. All right. That's fine. So here he has Monster Gate. If he can get over the Stratos, I'm actually not going to be in the greatest position in the world, which I think is actually quite likely. So even with my pretty good opening hand, I might end up losing. All right, he hits Diamond Dude. Okay, so he has in his hand Reasoning, a Sword, a Diamond Dude, and a Brain Control. Okay. Here I think I just call 8. I think 8 is just, generally speaking, the best one to call. The worst situation, the worst case scenarios is if he hits any big monster. I mean, honestly, if he hits anything, I'm kind of in a bad position. So I maybe should call 6 because he has Jinzo in his deck. Yeah, Jinzo and Dasher, conceivably. But if he hits Dark Magician of Chaos, I'm just in really bad position. So I'm gonna say 8. Okay, that's good too. Obviously, that's what I wanted to hit. Now I'm in good shape. Now he's in tough position here. Yep, he's gonna use his Dude effect. All right, yeah. Now I think I'm in good shape because the sword... Actually, no. He can sword. He can double sword over me right now. Yeah. Yep. Card destruction? Sure. So if he double swords and attacks over a Stratos, I'm actually not in good position. Because then I can't summon the spell canceller. Yep. His hand is currently 2 swords and a brain. Is that a... Hold on, I need to read sword real quick. I want to read sword here. Yeah, so this is a cost, huh? Yeah, I think what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to crow the sword. Yeah, we'll play it as a cost. I don't think it is very likely to affect the outcome of this game. And if it doesn't work that way, I would just DD Crow before he even activates it in that manner. So one way or another, I could have played around the possibility of him getting double. Yeah, all right, so we're perfect. So we draw. It's an interesting draw. I can't actually get stuff into the graveyard, but that was a pretty interesting draw. All right, so now we're going to summon Spell Canceller. Attack over a Diamond Dude. I guess I'll set my Defusion. His Heavy Storm is gone. He has... The Dark Arm Dragon is under Crush Card Virus, so I don't have to worry about that. He also now has 4 Darks. And he could theoretically get down to 3 Darks by putting on a sword, and it gets negated, and then crashing, and then banishing 2 Darks from the 2 Diamond Dudes, and then getting back to 3 Darks. I think my Defusion's so powerful, it's worth setting. Pretty sure he can actually still card destruction next turn, even though I have Spell Canceller on the field, because they're not on the field. All right, sweet. So he has Brain Control and Sword. Yeah, I'm just telling him I think he can card D. It's yeah, okay. Just making sure he knows. Yep. Let's say you can. Hopefully the rulings that we're talking about are... Yeah. All right, so he is using card destruction. Okay. Now we draw 2. Sanguine's a good draw. I get to see what they are. I get to see what they are off Crush. Vortex and Allure. Okay. Oh boy. That's actually an incredibly important one that he just hit, because now he actually can get to 3 Darks. Wow. That's incredible. Huh. Yeah. Because he can just bring it back the Dark Arm Dragon? No. He can't. All right, well, let me draw my card and then think about this. Okay. So he can... Let's see. Banish these 2 and go to 3 Darks. But then the reincarnation on the dad, he has 2 Darks in the graveyard. So as long as I put my Spell Canceller to defense mode, that's not a concern. Because if I attack his Diamond Dude currently, then he banishes the 2 Darks, brings back the Dark Arm, is actually at 3 Darks. Wow, that's incredible. So I think what I'm going to do is set the Sanguine, shift this to defense, and set the return, and pass. So now he has Vortex and Allure of Darkness. He does have ways right now to kill my Spell Canceller. I should point that out because he can reincarnation the DDM and then tribute it off for the Diamond Dude. And then he can bring back the Stratos. So I'm very wary of that. But I don't think there's much I could have done about that. Okay, he's going to bring back the Dark Magician of Chaos. Okay. Does he have Malicious Access? Sword Effect. Yep. Okay. So his hand is Vortex, Allure, Sword, DMOC, and a card I do not know. Dude effect, yep. Okay, finally a card that doesn't do anything. Is he going to... He has way too many darks, right? They're not way too many, 2 darks. So he has a dark arm that's on the bottom and a dark arm in the graveyard. Did he draw the 3rd dark arm? Huh. Well, that's actually a good draw. Even if he did draw dark arm, that's actually a pretty good draw. So Vortex, Allure, Sword, Dark Magician of Chaos in an unknown. It makes sense that it's Dark Arm Dragon, though, because he can summon the dad. Not really, actually. Huh. It's interesting. Do I think that he drew the last Dark Arm Dragon? That's a good question. Now I think I am just inclined to attack it. Even if I put him to 3 darks and he summons Dark Arm, now at least I have the Torrential Tribute. So I think I'm actually okay about that. I can't just let him sit here and incrementally build up card advantage by using the Diamond Dude every turn. And the Heavy Storm is gone. So I have to hope that he doesn't have Giant Trunade in his deck, which he very easily could. And what I mean by that is summoning Dark Arm, killing the Spell Canceller. I flip Torrential. He Trunades the rest of these. Granted, I could chain Scapegoat. All right. All right. So now that's probably pretty good here. So we'll draw. I don't have Dash in the grave, right? Can I win with this Dark Magician of Chaos that I just drew? Let's see. I can tribute the Spell Canceller and the Sangan. I think I probably can win here, right? Because his deck's not going to have any resistance, and I have Defusion. I don't probably want a Defusion, though. Right? Almost assuredly not. So what I can do is I can tribute these 2 off for the Dark Magician of Chaos and bring back the Premature Burial. The Premature Burial can be activated to bring back a Stratos. The Stratos can search Dasher. I can play Allure of Darkness, banish the Dasher, and then I'll have a 1800, a 2800, a 2100. We're looking at over about 7,000 damage, plus that doesn't even include Malicious. Yeah, that's definitely going to be game then. That doesn't even account for whatever it is that I search off the Sangan. Okay. So we're going to send to the grave, normal summon, search. I guess having a... Uh-oh, he says, yeah. I guess having a Reaper potentially in my banish pile is probably fine. Unload here, I can also Torrential my Dark Magician of Chaos effect. We get the Reaper. We're going to bring back the Premature Burial. I might actually have to Torrential my own Stratos here. Or my own Dark Magician of Chaos to clear up the back row slot. I might actually have to do it like that, right? Yeah, I'm going to... Yep, I actually do have to do it like this. I need to get it off of my field so that I pay the 800 here and I bring back this Stratos, and that searches the Dasher. And I'm going to banish the Malicious so I don't draw into the Malicious. Put it into attack mode, activate Allure, draw 2. That card is pretty good. I don't think it matters that I hit it, but it is a good card. I mean, this is just game, right? 21, I did the math. 18, 21, yeah. So 3,200, yeah. Boom, boom, boom. All right, yep, that was a pretty cool game. I had Monster Reborn, I had Defusion set, I had Scapegoats, there are a lot going on there. So thank you for watching. That's Giorlando for Yu-Gi-Oh! History. A little bit of Dark Arm Return versus DDT. Yeah, that was pretty crazy, Sean says. I agree. But thank you for watching. Check back soon for more matches with this deck, certainly more deck profiles, and a bunch of other content.